I know we're all tired of movies these days feeling less and less authentic and more like corporatized commercials to appeal to the unnamed focus groups and to repeat the billion-dollar successes that came before, somehow. But there was a time when films weren't just studio mandates to appeal to the masses. This was a time where movies could be whatever the fuck they wanted, no matter how crazy or bonkers the idea might have seemed. Where the directors and writers, for better or for worse, were free to fully express themselves. Now look, I'm not saying studio interference didn't always exist, and yeah, superhero flicks also suffered a lot of annoying corporate trend chasing, like Wolverine not being allowed to wear the yellow spandex because Batman and Robin were still fresh in public minds. Also, Catwoman 2004 exists. But remember, this era, the 2000s, is where Sam Raimi turned Spider-Man into a worldwide icon. Pixar was at the top of its game. Batman made a theatrical comeback with one good movie, and then a mind-blowing masterpiece. And of course, where the MCU first kicked off with Iron Man. All because the studios took the bold risk of trusting the visionaries behind the camera. Although I'd argue the genre that was probably at its peak during this decade was easily comedy. I mean, think about it, man. We had scary movies, White Chicks, Bruce Almighty, even animated ones, mainly from DreamWorks. Come on, you need no bigger example than Shrek. Hey, does Donkey's voice sound familiar to anyone else? Alright, Eddie Murphy, one of the best comedians in the industry, made the masterclass of cinema known as...
I object! Oh, for Christ's sake. Norbit.
Norbit!
Norbit is a 2007 romantic raunchy comedy about the titular Norbit Albert Rice, a clumsy but good-hearted man who one day has grown sick of his abusive wife Rasputia, and when it seemed like there was no escape from the problem, his childhood friend Kate comes to town, but unfortunately when he thought he had a chance to finally get with her after all these years, he also discovers she's engaged with this schmug, Gian, whom neither of them know is teaming up with Rasputia's corrupt big brothers to turn Norbit and Kate's childhood orphanage into a strip club. Like, wow. What should have just been a normal-ass romantic love triangle movie was made into this surprisingly complex tale about drama, testy loyalty, corporate greed, and most of all, laughs. I mean, yeah, obviously it's not trying to be super complex, but I thought that with studios recently desperately trying to imitate the MCU's quips for comedy, it'd be nice to revisit a good old-fashioned movie with a real comedy. At least in my opinion. Sure, it has some gross-out humor, and half of the jokes centered around Rasputia are just that she's fat, and that's it. In South Park, fat jokes about Eric Cartman weren't mainly about him just being fat and that was it. The real joke was how Eric would always deny it, saying shit like he's just big-boned or just brushing it off by name-calling the other boys. There was most of the time a clear formula there. But going back to the movie, the actually funny jokes come from the characters naturally interacting with each other and letting their personalities shine. Norbit is pretty much what you get when you take Peter Parker from the Raindrops montage in Spider-Man 2 and then give him Donkey's entire thing, including his actor. He's super dorky, always trips on himself, socially awkward, but of course he's super friendly. Kate is a nice-mannered woman who really doesn't have jokes herself. She just reacts to everyone else's antics, like Norbit still being a charming dork, Rasputia being off-puttingly rude, Leon making weird out-of-left-field changes for their wedding, and so on. But really, I just wish she had more to herself other than she's nice, and only occasionally emotional. I don't know, maybe I'm too used to love interests these days having their own rocks to stand on other than just being the girlfriend or boyfriend character. Heck, even back then you had characters like Fiona, Raimi's Mary Jane, and Rachel Dawes, who were all women with their own thing going on in their lives outside of the protagonist. Also, how the hell could she not pick up on Norbit suddenly being aggressive towards her while talking through a basement window? Come on, you can't be that cliche. There's Mr. Wong, another character played by Eddie Murphy. Damn, who are the makeup artists in these movies? Yeah, an Asian stereotype with probably the most low-hanging fruit jokes. He has a super raspy voice, he's dangerous around children, he calls Rasputia a gorilla. He admits he doesn't like black people and also Jewish people? Okay, don't get me wrong, he still has iconic moments, like whenever he gives Norbit some pretty helpful advice in life, and even helps him out at the end, cause, well, he's pretty much the closest he's ever had to a father. Kinda like Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy, only not as deep. His weird obsession with whales, though, is actually some of the funniest shit. And you know, every time he brings out his harpoon, real shit is gonna go down. Then there are these pimps, Pope Sweet Jesus and Lord Have Mercy. Yeah, those are their names, just go with it. They have some of the best lines in the movie. They see little girls falling from the sky, and all Pope says is, "Little white women are falling out of the sky." And then Lord says, "My prayers have been answered." Who the hell comes up with that? Or how about the fact that they are so good at persuading women that even this event organizer goes, "I want to be a hoe too. Where do I apply?" Like, what do you mean, where do you apply? She was in charge of this one establishment, right? So how did she not know where to apply? Honestly, the more I think about it, I now kind of wish a pimp named Slickback from the Boondocks also had a sidekick who agreed with him on everything and followed up every crazy womanizing sentence he said. And similar to Mr. Wong, I like how they're also pretty cool friends to Norbit. They even feel terrible for him for marrying you-know-who. And that's it for the main characters. Now let's talk about the villains of the movie. From which there are 3, count 'em, 3 villains in this one romantic comedy. And get this, neither of them feel forced, nor do any of them feel unnecessary to the plot. They all have a narrative purpose, and they all even go as far as to helping each other with their plans. Tell me, how many movies actually pull this off without falling straight on their faces? We all know about Spider-Man 3, right? How all its villains feel like they belong in different movies, and sometimes are even sidelined by contrived circumstances just to facilitate the movie's function. Over the Hedge, while a comedic classic, Vincent the Bear has really nothing to do with either the landlady or Sandman again. And as timelessly amazing Puss in Boots' Last Wish is, neither Goldie and the Bears, Jack Horner, or Death ever ate each other in their goals. I'm not saying they needed to do this, I'm just pointing out a difference here. But this movie somehow stuck the landing on it. First we got Dian, who is admittedly the weakest villain, let alone character. He's just a typical asshole love rival to Norbit, who's so greedy and deceitful. Ooh, think of the drama. Just ignore all the million times this has been done before. But what does salvage him is how they double down on his scumminess. The movie outright tells you he has married and then abandoned other women before Kate. He never really hides how much of a lying loser he is. He has multiple fake identities, unless he actually does have a gay twin brother, Antoine Luther. Who knows? And every time he's about to give up on his schemes, he just goes, "I'm out." Then we got the Lattimore brothers. Big Black Jack, Earl, and Blue. Rather than 3 fully defined individual characters, there's simply an entire unit with Jack being the more vocal one. I know Terry Crews is mostly known for goofier roles. You know, those where he just reminds people he's saying 1,000 miles in White Chicks. But this movie showed me that he can absolutely play a no-nonsense cold guy who could probably kill you in a multitude of different ways. There's barely any scene where he's portrayed like some big, muscular, jolly, goofy clown. Hey, come to think of it, why couldn't he have played Cobra Bobbles in the Lilo and Stitch remake? The guy they got looks absolutely nothing like him. Although, from what I've learned, Bubbles isn't even himself in that movie, so what would be the point? Even though they're the entire town's bullies, I like how they do look out for each other as well as Rasputia, since they're all a family. And their sibling squabbles are just wholesomely hilarious, I can't help it. And then there's her. Come on, you know her. You loathe her. She's the woman, the myth, the legend, Rasputia.
What the hell did you just say?
Now yeah, similar to Wong, she also has low-hanging fruit jokes, more particularly that she's fat. She outgrows her car seat, she steals other people's food, she destroys water rides. Like, dude, did we really need a scene where she has to show she's wearing a thong? Like, really, guys? But other than that, she absolutely carries this movie. She's just this unapologetically greedy, self-centered diva who causes discord everywhere she goes, and it's especially much to Norbit's dismay. Speaking of which, I suspect some people will take away from this movie that Norbit's lesson is that he should go with someone skinny rather than plus-sized, and I do understand where you're coming from. But here's the thing. The movie is not telling you that. The reason why Norbit chooses, and is even encouraged to go with Kate, is obviously because Rasputia is a horrible person. She's loud, abrasive, physically, mentally, and spiritually abusive. She starts fights, blames everyone else for her problems. She even crippled a dog. Like, riddle me this. If you were married to her and she just happened to be skinny, would you still be with her? And there are a few other factors I want to point out. 1. Norbit never minded her weight. He married her because she protected him since her teens. And 2. Rasputia, if anything, is proud of her size. She brags about it, she punches down other women for lacking muscle, and she doesn't want to admit whenever it inconveniences her. However, as awful as she is, she does have 2 redeeming qualities. First, she prayed for forgiveness when she swore in church. And the most obvious one, she always has the courtesy of asking people, "How you doing?" No matter what situation she's in, she's always thoughtful enough to ask anyone in her space about how their day has been. How many villains can you name that have the generosity to ask the simple question, "How you doing?" Now, since I'm deep into the movie, let's talk about...
What are you looking for?
The makeup guy from Norbit. Rick Baker, get out here, you talented son of a bitch!
Guys, seriously, can we talk about this movie's impressive practicality in editing? Because my goodness, they just really made sure you, the viewer, could believe Norbit, Rasputia, and Mr. Wong were different breathing people. Sure, there are some visual inconsistencies, mainly Terry Crews's hair in some scenes, but most of the time, you just actually believe Eddie Murphy is talking to someone other than himself. This was years before Jim Carrey did this in Sonic 3. Bit of a tangent here, but can we also talk about how this movie somehow looks a lot more believable than Spider-Man No Way Home? And I'm not just talking about the PlayStation 3 looking CGI. I'm telling you, most of the time, the actors won't look like they're in the same room together. It's even more pathetic when you remember they deadass resorted to using old footage from Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man because neither actor for Sandman or Lizard were physically available. But since people still love this movie to death, fine, let's use this scene from Hawkeye. The one where Yelena confronts Kate in her apartment. Even when I first watched this show, I could immediately tell Haley Steinfeld and Florence Pugh couldn't be there at the same time. For some reason, they even made sure to not show them in the same frame together. Now, of course, both things were filmed during the pandemic, so... Oh. There's a set photo where you can clearly see them side by side. Isn't that just grand? But in No Way Home's case, I get it, the virus and all, it sucked. But have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't have been such a big deal if Marvel realized they were biting more than they could chew with this stupid strategy they had? Shit, that's the problem with blockbuster movies these days, isn't it? They're just big budget commercial after big budget commercial that whenever there is a movie that actually has a direction, a vision, or just something to say, it's likely gonna be treated like a once in a blue moon thing. Hey, speaking of the stench of corporate sanitization... A YouTuber named Jane for short made a retrospective on the movie and delved deep into its hidden message about commercialism and consumerism. What all 3 villains have in common is that no matter how successful they are, or in Rasputia's case, how pampered she is, they all just want more. Dion is a gold digger who has no problem cheating women out of their money. The Lattimores pretty much own the entire town but still want to turn the local orphanage into a strip club. Oh, you know they'd be the Riddler's main targets. And for Rasputia, it's not enough that her brothers pamper her, Norbit accepted her no matter what, or that he gets her all the food she could possibly ask for. She is just avaricious. She eats whatever junk food she finds, lays with other men despite her vows, sits around watching trash TV, and she even wanted in on the whole shady bar business. Heck, at the end it seemed like she finally found her true passion in life. There's even other layers to this message on the other side of the spectrum. Norbit always did his job by the book. Wong and Kate actually care about the children, so it makes sense they'd run an orphanage. The pimps use their business to act as other guys' wingmen, and the entire town, who all own local businesses, band together to protect Norbit because he's always been a good person. So it makes sense they'd all conquer their fear of the Lattimores and have his back in return. It is ridiculous how a woman who's always refused to properly exercise in her life can solo an entire village with just a shovel, but at least we got this epic scene.
Bingo! Right in the bro hole!
Soon after that, the movie ends with Norbit and Kate getting properly married under the same oak tree they pretended to marry with ring pops as kids, tying it all together in a nice bow. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's Norbit for you. Other than the impressive makeup, the hidden subtext, and deeper message, I really don't know what else is there to say. It's Norbit. Sure, it has some poorly aged jokes, But aside from that, it is overall a fun, wholesome, charming movie about a scrawny, dorky guy and his journey to be with the woman who's always been the one for him. Also, come on, what would this world be without Rasputia? It would just not be the same. And if you disagree, well, I guess all I can say is, how you doing? If you like this video, give it a like, and if you'd like to see more videos from me, like reviews, rankings, tops, unboxings, etc., make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell everyone about me because you know how YouTube works these days, and comment your thoughts down below. Till next time, stay faithful and hopeful.